Hey, thanks for stopping by, everybody. Wanted to talk to you about a new tool I acquired right before Thanksgiving, give you my thoughts about it. I've had a lot of people reach out to me knowing that I've gotten a new 3D printer and just wanted to know kind of in general terms, how easy it is to use, what software do you need to learn to use it, what was the learning curve like, what can you use it for? And full disclosure, I've only been using this 3D printer a little over a month, so I'm a newbie when it comes to 3D printers. I know very little compared to what I eventually will know about this machine. But I had so many people reach out to me that just wanted to have a high-level view of what something like this could do, how hard it was to learn, those kind of things. I thought I'd make a video just to cover those topics. What I decided to purchase was a Bambu Labs X1 Carbon. This is pretty much the top of the line printer right now. It's got a lot of really nice features, and we'll go into those a little bit later. But what I did, like most of you, is when you're doing your research, I talked to a lot of people that already had 3D printers and was using them a lot and was talking about which one would they buy and why and those kind of things. A big shout out to Michael Hartman for being very patient with me. I asked him a ton of questions and he uses 3D printers a lot, and so with him and along with several other folks, they all basically pointed me to this particular 3D printer. And so I got it when it was on sale. I think it was $150 off on a Black Friday sale or something like that. It showed up and I've been really having a good time with it. Now, to be honest with you, I knew absolutely nothing about 3D printers before I started to investigate this. I started to talk to people back in September, knowing that this is something that I would really like to do. I've created another product and there are some accessories for this product that I wanted to prototype. And I was using somebody else to do that prototype work, but it was such a time lag because we were both very busy that, it just wasn't very convenient. So it was at that point that I decided, you know what, let's go ahead and get the 3D printer, and that way I can prototype things in literally minutes. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I've created since I've had the 3D printer, and just my experience in general on how hard was it to learn. Did I have to master the settings like you do in laser work, those kind of things? And I really view this as just another tool in the toolbox to be able to provide me an option that if I needed to create, whether it's hangers for my rotaries or a prototype for an accessory on one of the products I produce, it's just really nice to be able to conceive it in my head, draw it out, and literally in minutes be able to put it in my hand and modify it as I see fit. And within a very short amount of time, I've got a useful product that I can go ahead and use. Couple of examples. I will tell you, one of the first things that when I got the printer, I was learning it, the wife came to me and said, hey, the thumb hold on my curling iron is missing and I burn my thumb every time I try to open my curling iron. Can you make a knob for that? And so I figured, well, this is a perfect opportunity to see if I can just make something really simple. Didn't take me any time at all. Created it, printed it out, pushed it on to her curling iron, and it fixed it. It worked perfect. And so that really gave me the boost, shall we say, to start looking at other things. And so one of the things that you will find, you've got two avenues when it comes to 3D printers. Just like Etsy, you could go out to many different 3D pattern sites like Printables and Thingiverse and those kind of places where you can just download a design and print it out, meaning that you don't have to do any design work whatsoever. But you're limited to what's out there on the market. Maybe there's something that you want very specific and you can't find it. That's when you have to understand that you've got to be able to get in and do some CAD work, some three-dimensional parametric modeling. I'm using Shaper 3D right now. I've used most of the 3D modeling CADware. I've been using AutoCAD since 1985, so CAD is not new to me, but there's lots of CAD products out there on the market. Most of them will have a monthly subscription fee, some won't. And what I would tell you is that each one of those are going to have slightly different workflows. I used most of them. I've used Fusion 360, I've used Onshape, and like I said, right now I'm using Shaper 3D, and the big difference between all of them is just what the workflow looks like. And so once you kind of find a workflow that makes sense to you, it's easy to use, then that's kind of where you need to stay. I'm going to show you a little bit about Shaper 3D today just because it's the software that I'm using. I really like it just because I've got Mac in the house, I've got Windows out in the shop, and I've got an iPad, and I can use all three of those operating systems with Shaper 3D, which is really nice to have. And so we'll talk a little bit about that, but let's talk about just some of the products that I've made. Fooling around for the last month or so with this Bambu Labs X1 Carbon. So let's talk a little bit about just some of the things that I've made since I've had this 3D printer, and some of this is just for fun, some of it's practical. And so let's just talk a little bit about it. This is one of the first things that I created. It's a phone stand. I downloaded this off of Printable, so this was just basically downloaded into the slicer. And the term slicer is used, it's a software that you have to have once you get a design. It's kind of like Lightburn for lasers, meaning that without a slicer, you cannot get your design to be printed out because you need an intermediate software. It'd be just kind of like doing a design in Adobe and trying to get it to utilize the laser without Lightburn. So the way it typically works is you'll have a design software like Shaper 3D or Fusion 360, something like that. Once your design is done, you load it into what they call a slicer software, and that's what builds the G code that's required for the 3D printer to be able to print out products like this. And so there's usually a minimum of two softwares. There's the design software if you're actually designing something, or there's the design software and the slicer software. Now, Bambu Labs has a slicer that comes with the product. It's really easy to use. It gives you warnings if you've got things that aren't set properly. I've enjoyed it. It's very easy to use. So let's just talk a little bit about some of the products that I've generated. So this is a phone stand, and you can see that it's gear driven, and I just wanted to see if I could make something like this. I downloaded this, I printed it up, I glued it together, and it functions very well. And so all of these different things are just building my confidence on what I can do. Of course, I printed out the benchy. That was the first thing that I did, and that's just a benchmark product to make sure that your machine's working properly. There's some blocks that I generate for my twister tray. Here's a carabiner made out of a carbon fiber PETG that's very, very strong. There's absolutely no spring involved in this. It's all the way this is designed. 3D hinges that are printed in place, meaning that you will pull this hinge off the 3D printer. It's fully assembled and functional. So there's no assembly required. This is scalable. This kind of stuff just blows my mind, to be honest with you. I did these in Shaper 3D from scratch. I wanted to learn how to generate thread patterns and that kind of stuff. So one is left-hand thread, one is right-hand thread. We've got a new push pin that I'm developing for my twister tray, so we can eliminate the carriage bolts up front. So this is something I'm working on. Just some different knobs. Again, just learning the system, different types of material. And one of the first things that I did once I got my 3D printer, it was right around Thanksgiving, and I've always wanted to hang Christmas lights off my metal fascia on my house, but I could never find clips that would work properly, because we use the little LED lights, and the wire is pretty small. So I went ahead and drew up this little clip, and I will tell you, it worked absolutely fabulous. And then a couple of days ago, when I was taking my Christmas lights down, I said, hey, if I fashion a tool to be able just to connect this to the end of a stick, and this goes here, I can actually stay on the ground and push these clips off of my metal fascia, so I don't have to get on a ladder. And so I was able to, in about 15-20 minutes, draw this removal tool, get it printed up, tape it onto a long stick, and I was able to go ahead and push these little clips off my metal fascia with the Christmas lights hanging on, and I didn't have to get on the ladder at all. It was great. So that's how quick and easy you can generate stuff once you learn kind of the system. So these are just some of the simple little things that I've created along the way. Before we get into the software, let's talk a little bit about this AMS unit. So you can buy this Bambu Labs X1 Carbon with or without the AMS unit. And this is modular, meaning that you can add multiples of these, so you can have up to 16 different colors that you choose from. One thing I will tell you that I'm glad I ordered the unit with the AMS system. This way you've got 4 different colors of filament that are always loaded, and if you want to, print something out of black, it's a matter of selecting it in your slicer software, and away you go. You don't really have to be changing anything. If you're using Bambu Labs filament, which I think for the first 6 months they give you at a reduced price, it's about 17 bucks a roll, which is pretty reasonable when you're talking prices. And it will auto sense the color, so you don't have to type in anything as far as if you're just using generic filaments. And so that's something that I would probably recommend. If you eventually go out and get other filaments, I think that's fine, but at least to get you started, keep it as simple as you can. So the extra 400 bucks or so that it was for this AMS unit, I'm glad I did it, because I can switch colors on my prints really fast. It's an auto feed feature. I haven't had a minute's trouble with it. It's worked really good. It's got some nice features. So I'm glad I spent the extra and got the AMS unit. And again, you can add more than one if you want. If you need access to a bunch of different colors, you can certainly do that. And so just a quick note on the AMS unit. I'm glad I bought it, and it's working great. Let's say that you wanted to go ahead, you didn't want to do any design, but you just wanted to download something to print on your 3D printer. Remember, I talked about that there's 2 different ways to do that. You can download existing designs. This is from printables. This is just a bunch of wall hooks. And you would go ahead and download it to your local hard drive. And then from that, you would upload it into the slicer software and be able to print it out on your printer. A lot of these are free. You don't have to, you pay, you can make a donation, those kind of things. So I downloaded this pack of different hooks, wall hooks. And so once I did that, I would jump into my slicer. Now this is the Bambu Studio slicer that comes with the unit. And just at a very high level, you've got prepare, review, device, project, and calibration over here. Here is the 4 different types of plastic that I've got. I'm printing out PETG in 4 different colors, and that's what was loaded in that AMS system that sits on top of the 3D printer. And at this point, I'm going to leave all of the settings defaulted. That's one thing that I've really enjoyed about this, is they've really got this dialed in. I haven't had to tweak anything. I'm sure eventually I'll try to find out what certain things do, but as of so far, I've just left everything default. So how you get a design in is you just come up here and you would, let's just take the single hook strong, and we'll just import that one. And you notice it showed up. Now I can look at this three-dimensionally if I want. You can see that's where the screw hole's all pretty sturdy hook. Right down here gives you the size. So it's 30 millimeters by 75 millimeters. So it's a pretty good size hook. If I wanted to change the color, all I'd have to do is right mouse click and come down here to change filament. And I could pick whatever color I want to make it. Let's make it blue. If I wanted to go ahead and make a bunch of them, I could go ahead and right mouse click and go clone. And I could say, give me 3 more of those. And it will duplicate that. And then if I didn't want to rearrange them myself, or maybe I'm just not sure how they're supposed to go in the 3D printer, I can always come up here to the auto arrange function and say arrange, and it will go ahead and lay that out for you. The other thing that I will tell you is if you want to get rid of it, you just highlight it and hit delete. So we'll just go back to 1 for right now. And you notice that we've got green indications here, meaning that I've selected my build plate. This is just the plate that sits in the 3D printer that your print goes on. There's a number of different plates based on the type of filament that you're using. Depends on, like if I select this right here, this is for PLA, and that's not the type of plastic that I have loaded. And so what's happening is it's going to give me an error. It's going to say, hey, Robert, you can't use this build plate with the material that you're planning on printing. So it keeps you out of trouble pretty well. Change that back to what it should be. I'm going to leave all of my settings just default. And at this point, all I've got to do is I've got to come up here and say slice plate. And it's going to generate the G code that the 3D printer needs to send it to the printer. And this is all the different time pieces that it has for each one of these operations. And so the bottom line is, to create this hook, it's going to take about 24 cents worth of material or filament, and it's going to take about 26 minutes to print this hook out. And so one of the things that you'll learn if you're going to do any 3D printing is nothing's fast, meaning it takes a little time to create these. This is a pretty good size hook. And so that's where we're at. If I wanted to go ahead and send that to the printer, then all I'd have to do is say print plate and make my selections and say send, and it would send over my Wi-Fi in my house to my printer, and it would go to work. Once I've submitted the file to the printer, it'll automatically switch over to devices. And one thing that I really didn't give much credence to when I bought this, but I've learned to really enjoy it, is the inside the 3D printer is a camera. And I can monitor what's going on from my smartphone, from my laptop, pretty much wherever I've got Bambu software installed. I can monitor what's going on here. And so you can see a real-time preview on what's going on there. Over here on this right-hand side, you can see what color is currently being used and what part that we're printing, the percentage of when it's done, how many minutes it's got left. You can also pause or stop this. So for some reason, let's say that you see there's a problem, you can either pause it or stop it remotely. So a lot of times I'll have something going on the 3D printer in the office, in the house, and I'll be out in the shop working with laser stuff. And if for some reason I need to stop the printer or whatever, I can just do that over my phone app or monitor what's going on. It'll also send you text messages on when the print is done. Really a pretty handy little interface for sure. And so this is what the device tab looks like. It's just giving you a real live preview, your percentage on what you're printing and how far along it is, what material you're printing and what color you've got currently going, and what your temperature is for your head and your bed, and all of that's all illustrated there. So this is a really nice feature. I can glance at this remotely and see that everything's going okay, It'll also tell me when it's done if I needed to go get that. And so that's the device tab in Bambu Labs. Okay, this is a Shaper 3D, and I've already got a basic outline here. I'm not gonna. This isn't meant to be an instruction video for Shaper 3D, but just to give you some basic exposure to it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up this hook. And so what I did is I just took up my digital calipers and I got some general dimensions off that blue hook that we just printed off, that we downloaded, so I can show you how we would create one in 3D parabolic type CAD software. And so these are just the dimensions for the existing hook that we generated. And once I have all my dimensions, again, this was just quick and dirty, I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and so I can get a three-dimensional look. I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to come up, and at this point we're turning it from a drawing to a solid, and the thickness of this hook was, I believe it was 0.80, so we're going to just put 0.80 here and hit enter. And now we've got our hook pretty much made. All we've got to do is put some holes in it, round off some corners, and before you know it, we're going to have our own hook to be able to send to the 3D printer. Okay, so what I did is I came in here and I just drew 2 1/8-inch holes. These will be our mounting screw holes. I've got out of my drawing, and I'm going to just select each one, push that through, generate that hole, generate that hole, and now you can see that we've got 2 holes through our bracket. And so the only thing we've got left to do is our chamfers. And putting chamfers on a design is really easy. So what we're going to do is come down here to Tools, come up here to Chamfer and Fillet, and we'll zoom in a little bit, and we'll select this edge, and we can pull it out. We can make it flat like that, which would truly be a chamfer. So we'll take that at 0.0354. Yeah, let's go 377. That's good. And then we'll do the same thing over here. And at this point, we've got our chamfers. Then what we can do is we can just go ahead and go around. If we look at this three-dimensionally, we can go ahead and round all these corners. So anytime I just select a corner, I can pull it, and we can keep it consistent. We can just start going around and making these a little bit stronger. To me, this is you know, the fun part of the whole process, because you can pretty much make it your own. We'll take this real sharp corner and we'll round it off. Don't need any sharp corners for any of this. You can take these, excuse me, back to our tool and go to chamfer. Select this edge, and it will select all the way around. And so that way it can, you get the idea. Probably ought to transfer this edge. All right. So anyway, you get the idea. And at this point, what you can do once you round all your edges and get it ready to go, the only thing we've got left to do is we're going to go ahead and kick it out into a file format that our 3D printer can understand. The other thing that's neat about this software is you can change its appearance. You can put it in metal. You can color it up. If we wanted to, we could go to visualization. I could put whatever color I wanted to on it. Let's go with maybe a blue anodized metal, huh? Pretty crazy. Anyway. Modeling. And if I wanted to kick this out, so I could go ahead and print it out. I'll go ahead and round the rest of these corners. Won't bore you with that. But all I'd have to do is come up here to Share and go to Export and go to Export Project. And then I'm going to go to 3D Print. And the 3MF file format is perfect for your 3D printer. I would say Export. And then I would bring it into the slicer software just like I did the file that I downloaded from Printables, and that's what we'll do. So I'll finish up this drawing right quick, we'll export it, we'll print the one that we drew up, and we'll compare the two. Okay, I got that file exported okay. We're going to come in here and go down to YouTube wall hook and open it up, which will bring it into this corner. It's giving me a warning saying, hey, the body of your part is too close to the edge. We need to bring it somewhere in the middle here. And you notice that warning goes away. I want to print it in blue, not in black. So I'm going to right mouse click, come down to change filament. I'm going to go to blue. And at this point, I should be in pretty good shape. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure that I've got the smooth PEI plate for PETG, and that's what I've got. I'm going to leave all of the things down here defaulted, and I'm going to slice it. And it's going to take about 26 minutes. We're going to go ahead and send it to the printer, confirm that I've got the right color, and I could go ahead and do the time lapse, and we'll say send. And when it's done sending, it will automatically flip me over to the device tab, which will show me exactly what's going on with the 3D printer inside. And now I'm looking, you can see that the bed's coming up. And it's going to preheat the bed. It's going to go through about a 6 or a 7 minute calibration process, and then it will start to print. And here you have it. The one on the right hand side was the file that we downloaded from Printables and just printed it out. The one on the left is the one that we drew up in Shaper 3D. They're slightly different just because they didn't take a whole lot of time with all the dimensions. But the bottom line is you can see that it's pretty darn easy to generate your own files. And the beautiful thing about using a software like Shaper 3D along with Fusion 360, most all of them, is you can go back and modify the file, change dimensions, and it's very quick and easy. So I just wanted to give you kind of a quick idea on kind of what a 3D printer is, what the process looks like. The learning curve is not very steep at all. They've got the settings dialed in pretty well. As long as you're following, what they recommend, I think you're in pretty good shape. If you like the content, I'd sure appreciate a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And if you've got the capability, hit that thanks button and contribute to the channel. It's those contributions that are making this content available. So happy New Year to everybody. We'll see you next time.